to put myself in your shoes, but you haven't walked a step in mine. So we'll talk about you, 'cause that's all we ever do. But you always refuse to look in the mirror. So fill the void. Why don't you for some other girl? So fill the void. We'll see if I care. With some dim stuck up dame, you can't remember her name, but you will never replace me. No, put so much work into you, was my favorite thing to do, but what about me? Truth is, I was in misery, trying to make you so that tonight. The truth is, you'll never learn, you don't know my worth. Believed in you, 'cause I'm a fool, and ever since I left, you still don't understand what you've lost. So fill the void. Oh, why don't you with some other girl? So fill the void. We'll see if I care. With some dim stuck up dame, you can't remember her name, but you will never replace me. Oh, the only thing I'm thankful for is wasting my time. Lord knows I love you. The only thing I'm thankful for is telling me pretty lies. And no, you don't understand. Way too good for that. You got to fill the void. Why don't you with some other girl? So fill the void. We'll see if I can. With some dim stuck up dame, you can't remember her name, but you will never replace me.
Aubrey and Russ Burchell here on River Talk. This is the River's Edge Radio Network, broadcasting from the amazing Mr. Small's studio. Beautiful job. Fantastic stuff. We've got more music coming your way from the duo. You may remember Aubrey from American Idol. She is made a local celebrity here in the Pittsburgh area due to the audition there. And we've got lots more in store for you, at least a couple more songs, a great discussion about American Idol, about my hometown of Irwin, where they are from, and much more that's on the horizon. But first, we must talk about a local business that is under assault. Under assault, it is Hitchhiker Brewing. Hitchhiker Brewing, and I hate to do this, but I got to pull up an article from another radio station. This is from WESA 90.5. The Mount Lebanon location of Hitchhiker is under assault by the local community. Several angry, bitter, miserable people. They're angry at Hitchhiker Brewing. They're claiming that it's noisy, that the people are disruptive, and I guarantee you all of it's rubbish. And we'll get into that right now here on River Talk. If you want to comment, don't forget you can text us at 412-407-2PGH. You can hit us up on Twitter at RiverTalkPGH. Or, of course, the most famous way to communicate is on the Facebook Live feed, and that's at River Talk PGH as well. Jolie Crawford, my sister's, commented right off the bat. She says, great voice, and I absolutely love her hair and jacket. Speaking about Aubrey, so there you go. Jolie's got her voice in on the radio station, reaching out to the world, so you can do so as well. The people in Mount Lebanon, and remember, these are the snooty people that wanted to kill all of the deer because they were eating the grass. It's the same people. It's the same community. So this shouldn't shock you. They're unhappy about change. They're unhappy that something is new in the community. And they're claiming that the Hitchhiker Brewing location in Mount Lebanon is bringing down property values. That's what they're claiming. And they're saying that it's so bad that the patrons of Hitchhiker are peeing on the streets, peeing in their yards. The same kind of inflammatory rhetoric that this community is known for when it comes to the deer population. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. I don't believe them. I've seen breweries come into different communities, and it's always the first sign of a community that is on the rise, a community with rising property values. And it's always, I'll be honest, it's a higher class of customer. The craft brews that you get at these breweries, they're not cheap. I just went to Grist House down the street here in Millville, and it cost me $7 for a drink. Your average drunk isn't stumbling into Grist House throwing back 10 $7 drinks. It's just not what happens. But what it is it's these people who have been there forever. They're unhappy, they're miserable, they're whining and they're crying because things aren't the same as they were 100 years ago. And they try to actually shut down great new community institutions. What Mount Lebanon needs is a Brian Crawford. They need someone like me who lives in their community to come out and speak. And I know you're saying, Brian, you're going to break your arm patting yourself on the back, but don't forget, it was I, Brian Crawford, who flooded the Millville Council chambers with people in support of Grist House Brewing. If you remember, if you're a longtime listener of this show, several bitter, angry, whiny, ill-tempered citizens here in Millville would continue to come to the meetings, time after time again, nonstop, claiming that Grist House was a menace to the borough of Millville, claiming that this building here that we broadcast out of, Mr. Smalls, was terrible for the community, and that the noise was leaking out of the facility and ruining their evenings. Now, I've lived in Millville for about 4 years now, and this is one of my favorite places to frequent, so yes, I am biased. But I'll be damned, you can walk around the building as many times as you want, and you'll be lucky if you hear music coming out of the building when you're on the property. You can stand out here in the courtyard, which is surrounded by the main stage and the funhouse stage at Mr. Smalls, and you'll have live bands playing in both, and unless someone opens a door, you don't hear a sound. It's like wearing noise-dampening headphones. You don't hear anything. It's incredible. I'm here in this studio, and one of the busiest roads in the town runs right behind us. I don't hear it because this place was built for sound. But I remember it was one day I was there at home, and there was some fear that Grist House, this beautiful brewery, this great community advocate, one of the largest sponsors for the Millville Music Festival, I will add, and this is coming from a place where you can't even get to the bar counter because it's so busy. You go into Grist House, it's like you're like a sardine trying to wiggle your way to the bar counter to get that $7 drink because it's so packed. There are so many people there. They just love it. So this place they're not hurting for business is what I'm saying, yet they donate a lot of money to the music festival every year just to be a good community advocate. So these places are great for the community. They bring a lot of good to the community. I know we're going to be talking about Irwin. I know Irwin's seen its fair share of disgruntled curmudgeons and angry, bitter people who don't want to see new things come into the community. I even remember when the Lamp Theater was being built. People were complaining about that. People complain about everything. But it drives me nuts when you see a group of people try to ruin someone's livelihood. And these places are never built in the middle of the woods. They're built in business districts. The Grist House, it blows my mind. People are complaining. But you live in a town, you live in the business district. If you don't want to hear noise, move out of the business district. Live somewhere, live in a gated community, or if you don't have the money for that, live in a residential neighborhood that is purely residential if you don't want to deal with businesses. Speaking of businesses, there's a new business opening up, and I'm very, 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 very excited about this. This article is coming from The Incline. That's where I got this information. It is a new Scottish pub that is going to be opening in Hazelwood. And what's so special about this building is they are revamping an old 1700 building, a building that was built in the 1792 on Monongahela Street. And it looks like this ancient building. And the designs that they have for this building, it's going to be fantastic. I cannot wait to drink there. It's going to be a Scottish pub, and they've refurbished the place. Apparently, the place was left to dust. It was left to be demolished. And this group has bought it, and they're going to revamp it. And I love when people restore old buildings. You have to understand that we in Pittsburgh have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to old buildings and old infrastructure for that matter, but I don't know if that's necessarily a riches. That's more of a rag story there. But when it comes to the old buildings, you go downtown and there are so many iconic, beautiful skyscraping buildings that were built in the early 1900s. You have several buildings that were built in the 1700s. Many, many places in this country cannot speak to that kind of history. And one of the reasons is our terrible, terrible geography. In some ways, I guess it's beautiful. The geography is beautiful. You've got the hills and you've got all of that. But when it comes to actual city planning, it is a nightmare. If you go downtown Pittsburgh, the reason why it's so confusing, people don't realize why Pittsburgh's so confusing. It's a peninsula, kind of, because there's the three rivers. So you've got a triangle, and they built the roads to match the triangle, and then they decided to slam a grid on top of it. So it makes no sense whatsoever. But it's so difficult to rebuild, and it's so expensive to rebuild in the city of Pittsburgh and in surrounding areas like Hazelwood, that instead of dozing down city blocks, which is what they do in a lot of older cities, actually, cities like New York City and Boston and some of these old cities, they'll just go in and just doze down entire blocks and rebuild new buildings. Well, in Pittsburgh, they don't have the ability to do that because of the crazy geography. So what you have instead are buildings like the Union Trust building, where the new owner is refurbishing the building and actually going back and polishing the brass on the outside of the building, cleaning up the interior of the building as well, and making it fresh and new and beautiful. And this is what I love about Pittsburgh. We have so many of these old establishments. So this place, 1792. Can you imagine how old that is? There are very few buildings in Pittsburgh that are older than that. But we still have like these buildings that exist. You look at the blockhouse on the Point, right there at Point State Park. You have this blockhouse which was built as a complement to Fort Pitt. And it's still there. And then you learn about the history of these places. It's just so fascinating. The Fort Pitt blockhouse has been so many things. And at one point, people think of the Fort Pitt and the Point State Park as this beautiful park, and they don't often know the history. But at one point, that entire area, it was the slums of Pittsburgh. And a lot of really, really poor people lived in that area, including that blockhouse. And what a blockhouse is it's basically, think of it as a gun turret in the 1700s, early 1800s. So you have this little one room, it was 2 floors, but a one-room building, and you have these little slits that circulate it. And what those slits were for is so somebody could stick their musket out of the slot and shoot people as they were coming. So they were built around Fort Pitt, these blockhouses, as an extra layer of defense in case somebody was to attack the fort. The fort was tore down, as you know, but that one blockhouse remains. And after it was a blockhouse, it became a residence. And not one, but 2 families lived out of this one-room residence. Can you imagine how poor you would have to be to live? And we're not talking about mom, dad, and a kid. We're talking several kids. Back in those days, people had a lot of kids, It's kind of a terrible reason why. So basically the human species is designed to repopulate itself. And people would have 6 or 7 kids. It's a little bit different than today's day and age where people have 6 and 7 kids for whatever reason, religion, whatever. People would have 6 or 7 kids because 5 of them would die. So you had 6 or 7 kids because then 2 of them would survive you and continue the family lineage. So it's a little bit of a different story now. We don't have those same kinds of population issues. People live forever with modern day medicine, especially in the United States and other first world countries. They have the medicine, they have the health, they have all of that stuff. But that didn't exist back then. So you had like these 2 families living in this blockhouse. So just really fascinating Pittsburgh history. We just have so many interesting, fascinating places. Even Irwin, we were talking about Irwin. I was once a member of the Norwin Historical Society, and there are some really fascinating historical places right there in the town of Irwin. There's an old shop that existed that if you look at the building, it's a bed and breakfast now. It was right on Old Trail Road. And you could see the porch, and you could see where this used to be a trading post at one point. It makes sense. You look at this old, beautiful stone building, and you can envision people coming up on their horse to get the goods that they need for the week. And then right across the street, there's another residence that used to be part of the Underground Railroad. And it's right there in Irwin. General Braddock camped right where there's a bank somewhere up near Clay Pike. Right there, General Braddock camped on his way to Fort Duquesne. And that doesn't exist anymore. But those 2 buildings on Old Trail, they still exist. And it's amazing how much people don't know about the area. There's so many different places. Take a look at the Culture Cruise, which is our museum review podcast, and we will go through and explore a lot of these really, really cool places. And I challenge you to really look into some of them. Some of them are free to go to, even if you can't get inside. At least go and take a look at these places, because it's definitely a treasure, especially the Union Trust downtown. Go into the Union Trust, go into the middle of the building, and just look up, and the entire sky will open up for you. But let's see if we have any comments. Are you a brewery fan? Let's see. Okay, we've got some comments from Jolie here. We'll have to get to some of those here in a minute here. She's commenting on the headphones. Jolie is a fan of the headphones that we have here in studio. Jolie is a donor of 2 of these headphones at least. So appreciate her support. She is asking if the place will sell food. Well, it hasn't been disclosed yet whether they will sell food. She's speaking about the new bar that's going to be opening up in Hazelwood. I hope that they do, because if they do a Piper's Pub type of thing where they have the English food or the Scottish food, that would be fantastic. That would be great if you can go into this old 1700 Scottish bar and eat a real Scottish meal with a real Scottish ale. That's exactly what I want. And the great thing about this is this old 1700-year-old building. If you go to England and Scotland, they have all of that. There's this show I've been watching on Netflix. I was binging it for a while. It's called Escape to the Country, and it's all of these people that live in London and live in Manchester and all of these big cities over in the UK, and they're hightailing it out of there, and they're moving to the country. And the buildings that they are living in, that they're moving into, a lot of them were built in the 1600s, 1700s. We don't even think of that here in the United States because everything here is so relatively new and fresh and modern. So, yeah, I'm hoping that they have food. We'll see. She says also that driving in Pittsburgh is confusing and terrifying for me because I'm a horrible driver. So that's why I never drive into the city. Yeah, the roads here are really confusing. As I said, it's a mixture of the grid and the triangle. And Pittsburgh really wasn't designed for vehicular traffic, and you can tell when you go downtown where there are no turning lanes. And one of the most frustrating things in the world is when you go downtown and you need to make a left-hand turn, and the light is starting to change, and the people don't know how to drive downtown. They'll sit there back behind the white line. You don't sit and follow the rules downtown. You drive into the middle of the lane. Then as the light changes, you go, oh, whoops. Didn't mean to do that. I guess I got to drive through or else I'm going to block off traffic. That's how you get through the intersection. You don't sit back and wait. You'll never get through. No one's going to let you through. It's the end of the day. People want to get home. No one has time to let you through. You have to bulldoze your way through. That's how you get through Pittsburgh traffic downtown. Trust me, I know. I used to drive a box truck. When you push a box truck in the middle of the intersection, no one's getting in your way. No one's going to try to slow you down unless they're a bicyclist. Because they don't give a damn. They'll just do whatever they want. But an actual car, no, they're not going to chance it. They don't have that entitled feeling that the cyclists have. And I know if you're a cyclist out there, you know what I'm talking about. I was blown away the other day. I was driving through, I was walking to the T from work. I wanted to go to the club downtown. And I saw, and it was Arctic temperatures out there. It was in the 20s. I'm walking along the road. I'm all bundled up. I've got the scarf and everything. It was freezing, miserable. It's been miserable the last few days. And I'm walking down, and I see a cyclist come to a stoplight, and they stopped, and they waited until the light turned green. I almost had a stroke. I couldn't believe it. I haven't seen something like that in such a long time. Usually they just screw the light, drive through, and flip you off as they're doing it. That's what you see often among the cyclists. I know some cyclist is going to be angry, and they're going to tell me how I'm wrong, but they know I'm not. They know deep inside that I am Pittsburgh's moral compass, Brian Crawford. I'm speaking the truth, and anyone out there who drives a car, they can sympathize with my disgust, with my turmoil. And trust me, when you drive professionally, it just gets worse. This is River Talk. I'm Brian Crawford. This is the River's Edge Radio Network. Don't forget, you can tell your Alexa device to play the River's Edge station on TuneIn. And you can listen to the River's Edge right there from your smart speaker. It's a great way to listen. It's how I do it. You can even do it with the Metal Edge, Zach. Zach is one of the managers of the Metal Edge, and that's at metaledgepgh.com. Same thing. Just go in, a word, play the Metal Edge station on TuneIn, and you've got the best Pittsburgh local metal right there from your smart speaker.
Oh, don't worry, I already muted ours, so you don't have to look over.
I don't have to say the A word. Okay, I can say Alexa. It's weird whenever you're in here in studio. We're surrounded. My entire house is the studio. Everything is just surrounded by AI everywhere. It's crazy. I've got a Google. I've got the Alexa. I've got two Alexas in the living room. I've got one in the bedroom, one in the bathroom even, so I can order extra toothpaste when I see. I can be brushing my tooth. Or trying to brush my tooth, squirting the toothpaste on, and maybe I'll get ahead of myself, throw the toothbrush in, and I'll be brushing, and I realize I need to order one, and I'll be try to talk to the Alexa. It doesn't work. Spit it out. Say, Alexa, order me new toothpaste, and there you go. 2 days later, it'll ding when the toothpaste arrives at the door. I hate that I promote Amazon, but my God, it is so easy. It is just so easy to do. It's so easy to do. I can't stop it. But anyways, yeah, you can ask the Alexa. You can't do it with Google Home. I don't know why. Google Home is behind the times. I tried. It doesn't seem to let me to play the River's Edge. So I guess in that regard, I have to endorse the Alexa. And we've got them here. It's great. We could video conference. We could do everything right with the Alexa and listen to great local music on the River's Edge, Pittsburgh's voice for local music. Music, hopefully, we'll be getting Aubrey here on the network as well, and you can hear great songs like the one we're going to hear right now here on Pittsburgh's Voice for Local Music, The River's Edge. What do you guys have for us?
This next song is called Fate.
Fate. Awesome. Very cool. You guys ready?
Yeah.
All right, let's hear Fate right here on The River's Edge.
Falling in love was so hard with you, it's easy. Where did you come from? could fly. Never thought I'd be on my feet again, but here you are. La, 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 la. Well, sure I have ghosts, and you know I'm scared, babe. They never fail to haunt me when I'm happy. But for you, babe, I'll be your light in the dark, be your fighter when it's hard. I'll wipe your tears, you are safe here. 'Cause everything happens for a reason. That's what they always say. The past is the past, even though it hurts. Well, I've been lied to, and I beat you down. We got back up, and you are mine. It's heaven on earth, yeah, for what it's worth. Yeah, listen up now, hear me out. I'm where I belong without a doubt. Listen up now, look at the stars, the constellations, they're ours. Destiny, you and me. Listen, 'cause you are all mine. My slice of heaven on this earth, divine. Now every dream I dream includes your hand in mine. You're everything I want and need. The stars have aligned. I'm so high that I'm flying. I'm back on my feet. Yeah. 'Cause here you are.
Cats are smarter than humans. That's what I've learned. One cat went missing. People were looking all over in a home in Detroit. They had the signs. They were looking. Where is it? Posted all over the town. Well, eventually the cat turned up 1,000 miles away in Tampa, Florida. This cat's smarter than us. What the hell are we doing here? It's freezing outside. It's like 20 degrees outside. I'm sitting at Grist's house surrounded by a fire when I could be in Florida. The cat's smarter than me. The cat's smarter than me. That's what I'm saying. A cat has outsmarted the human race. There's a repeating radio signal in deep space, speaking of traveling. And what's interesting about this is that we've seen radio signals travel through space, but the repeating radio signal may mean extraterrestrial life. Woo-hoo. A good friend of mine, David Muhlbauer, who's on this network, he commented that he thinks the aliens are simply listening to riversedgepgh.com. I don't know. I think David Muhlbauer is probably right on the money there. Cell phones, always in the mood. Have you ever tried to discipline your kids for being on the cell phone too much? Texting nonstop, selfies, Instagram, all of that. Well, one mother tried to put her kids in timeout, and the sisters had their revenge, viciously killing the mother to get the phone back in their hand. They say it's an addiction. Apparently so. Can you imagine slaying someone over a cell phone? Now, I admit I'm addicted to my phone, but the best thing about this watch, I'll tell you, I got the smartwatch. It actually keeps the phone out of my hands. I get to look at the watch and see if it's someone I really feel like talking to, and 9 times out of the 10, it's not, and I never pick the watch or the phone back up. A town was misnamed, a Pennsylvania town, in a listing of incredible Pennsylvania towns. You know, there's Intercourse, PA, there's all sorts of crazy terms, Mars, Pennsylvania. Well, one woman in a broadcast meant to say a specific name for the town. It was supposed to be Latite. Well, she ended up calling it Latite on air. the newscasters lost it. Nobody could keep their composure, and it was just wild. Speaking of text, we were talking about text a little bit ago. A woman was so angry over her one date. She had a one date with a gentleman he decided wasn't happening. So the woman texted him not one time, not 2 times, not 10 times, not even 100 times. A woman texted this man, according to police, 159,000 times. 159,000 times. That woman has carpal tunnel. I thought my thumb was bad. This woman is crazy. Talk about stalker. Maybe that's what the guy saw in this woman 159,000 times. I don't even know how that's possible. The date that the music festival launches, my phone often will break. It'll die due to the traffic that I'm receiving from people interested in the festival. 159,000 texts. I don't even get that when the music festival is announced. Not only did she text him so many times, she said she wanted to make sushi out of his kidneys. She wanted to chop him up and make sushi out of his kidneys. What would that even taste like? Do you like sushi? Have you ever eaten sushi? I imagine when it comes to the actual kidneys, it might taste like the eel. Sushi kidneys served up right here at Mr. Small's. Bon appetit. That's the top 5 here on River Talk. This is the River's Edge Radio Network at riversedgepgh.com. Brian Crawford, Zach Fell behind the board. We've got Aubrey and Russell here in studio. We're going to be talking with them in just a couple minutes here on the River's Edge Radio. I'm interested, really, really interested in this cat. Out of all of the stories we talked about, aliens, texting, sushi, kidneys, this cat it really outsmarted all of us. And we always talk about animals and are they smarter than we realize. This cat must have picked up itself on a truck or stowed away on a train. I don't know. And before you go and say that the owners are terrible people and terrible owners and the cat is running away from them, I just think the cat knew that the weather in Detroit sucks. Can you imagine? Like, we have it bad here in Pittsburgh with this 20-degree weather. But my God, the frozen tundra that is Detroit, I don't want no parts of none of that. Let's bring up our guests here. We've got Aubrey and Russell here in studio. You guys are here. You've performed. Let's come up to the mics.
Okay.
So, you guys have come up from Irwin. You've
Yes.
ventured through the Squirrel Hill tunnels.
Yes.
And you've made it here to Mr. Small's Theater for the River's Edge, and you've been through. So you got your start and your fame, I should say. You've got your fame through the American Idol auditions, right?
I would say so. A lot of my local notoriety has come from that. And we also perform a lot at local, breweries. Breweries.
Mm-hmm.
What a word.
Breweries, wineries.
So you guys know you've been to those places. You don't have people spilling out, drunk,
No.
peeing on the streets, right? At the breweries. That's just Mount Lebanon craze, right? That's
they're a tame crowd,
Yes.
generally speaking, and
You can't afford to get drunk at a
Yeah,
brewery.
a lot of the times they bring their kids.
Yeah.
Which is a big point of contention for me. I can't stand when people bring their kids to breweries.
No, they're my favorite people to perform to.
Really? But,
Yes.
I mean, you're there, you're trying to drink a beer and some kid runs into you playing tag. It's so frustrating.
I guess I can understand that. I'm not there drinking. So.
Sure,
A
yeah.
lot of the places that we perform at have a lot of space too. There'll be like outdoor wineries and things
yeah.
like that. So if the kids are running around, they're running around down there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
This is true. That's a good point. Now, do you often go to breweries where they have dogs?
No.
No.
Dogs.
I've been to a brewery, not a winery, where they had a pigeon.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, I've sang with a pigeon before.
Well, that's a big thing in this area is a lot of the breweries allow you to bring your own dog.
Oh, okay.
Okay, that's a new thing for us.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I've ever seen that, performed at a brewery that they allowed that.
Yeah, and that's a wonderful thing because especially if you're someone like me, I don't have a dog. I don't have the time to own a dog. It wouldn't be fair to the dog. But I get to go to these breweries and just walk around and pet all of these dogs. I'm like a crazy person running around just going from dog to dog and petting them at the
Isn't
brewery.
there a cat cafe in Pittsburgh?
I think so,
I've seen
yeah.
it with my own eyes. It's a thing.
Yeah, it's
You
great.
would find that.
Yeah, well, I did.
So you've gone through. Tell me a little bit about the process of going through American Idol. We once had somebody who was on the America's Got Talent and kind of told us about the behind the scenes. How do you apply? What's the process? How challenging is it to advance to the next level?
There's also generally a common misconception with how the whole process works. A lot of people think you just get right in front of celebrity judges and that's it. But no, there's a whole application process. You have to go in front of low-level producers, executive producers. So we can tell you a little bit about our experience with that. So I applied the day before they came to Bakery Square because I had no intention of doing it in the first place because I knew just how hard it was to get into the show. So we go, right, 7 a.m. I had filled out my application the day before we were in line, and I'm in this group of 5 thinking, like, there's no way in hell I'm going to, like, make it any farther than this. So I was, like, really not worried about it. Like, whatever, I'm gonna sing and
Yeah, there
leave.
was a ton of exemplary talent.
Oh,
literally
Yes.
all over the
Yeah, I was like,
place.
I have no chance.
Well, you guys were listening to the radio network before we started. You heard some of the music. That's all local. So there is a ton of talent here in
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
absolutely.
You're right.
I can never
Hugely
deny
talented
that.
area.
Absolutely. Jinx. So, I'm in front of this producer, and he brings 2 of us forward and sends the other 2 back. The other girl's name actually happened to be Aubrey. I know that's kind of, like, just, like, not involved in the whole topic, but, like, I thought that was cool.
That is weird, yeah.
Both Aubreys came up.
Especially like with that name because it's more unique. Like
Yeah,
my name's
yeah.
Brian, and you walk into any room and you're like, "Hi, I'm Brian." And you're like, "Oh, so am I. So am I." There's like 5 Brians in every room.
Yeah, so it was nice to sort of, like, go through the whole process with her. He was like, "We're going to send you to the next tent." And I was like, "Oh, did you really just say that?" 'Cause I didn't really think I was going to make it any farther than that. So they sent me to the next tent. They filmed me, and they invited my dad to play the guitar for my original song, Memory, which I will be doing today.
Nice.
They wanted me to do the original, so they filmed us doing that. They took some, like, story tidbits and stuff, and they sent it to the executive producers who decided they wanted to see us. And they gave us a few audition cities, one of which was New Orleans, which was the closest one, and, like, the most, like close one.
Yeah, the closest to Pittsburgh,
date-wise.
yeah.
And after Bakery Square, we had to do an executive audition in Studio City, just outside of LA. And
Oh, wow.
before we had to go to New
that's what I'm
Orleans
talking about.
for the celebrity audition.
No, we didn't go to New Orleans. I was just saying
Oh
that.
yeah, well yeah, she got sick, so we had to switch the city. And they were
see.
kind
That's what I
enough
just
to,
said.
like, I had to contact one of the junior producers, and I said, "Look, Aubrey is super super sick. She cannot perform."
God, that would have
in New
been.
Orleans. It
You probably were
Yeah.
going through a panic attack,
she was,
right?
She was
Yeah.
gonna lose her mind. So I said, "Is there any possibility we could change our city?" And they said, "Yeah, sure."
Yeah,
you
so
can
we
change
ended
the
up
city."
in LA
Yeah.
and we
Oh,
performed,
yeah.
me and Bob McGee, in front of the executive producers. We even, like, messed up the beginning, and they liked the way we interacted and stuff. So they were like, "We're gonna have you on the show." So our celebrity audition was in Nashville, and that was a whole, like, 7 a.m. to, like, probably, like, 11 p.m. midnight
on the
ordeal.
rooftop of the hall of the
Radio City.
the Hall of
No.
Fame, Country Music Hall of Fame.
Right?
Oh,
What
On
is-
wow.
the rooftop the entire day. At the time, and I'm not anymore, but at the time I was smoking. I didn't smoke all day because I was an adult. She was still a minor at the time.
Yeah.
And the custodial parent that's there with the minor child had to always be present.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I had become literally a nervous wreck by midday because
I'm
I
sure.
hadn't smoked. I hadn't eaten anything all day. And they were constantly interviewing her, interviewing me, having us go through these different, like, they would have you, like, walk in. They'd have you walk into a situation. They say, "Here's the situation. Here, you guys are going to talk about this. Walk in, and everybody's talking about this," right? And from the beginning, that's kind of the way they kind of set things up. Back at Bakery Square, after she made it through, after we played our original in front of this American Idol van thing, they said, "Okay, now you're going to go back with this camera guy. Act like you just got here."
This was the very first
the very
audition.
first audition, right?
In Bakery Square, they had us doing stuff like that, which was, I'm guessing, something to sort of prepare us for, like, acting.
That's
basically.
probably part of the trial period
Yeah.
because if you can't do that, you're not
Right.
going to do well on TV, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not all about, I mean, a lot of it is about your singing. You have to be a good musician in order to make it, but you also have to be good at talking with people and being that face because there is so much of that interview process that goes on with American Idol.
Absolutely. So we did a lot of that. Like, all right, act excited. No, do it again. Stuff like that.
But I had to perform with her because she actually made it through with this next original song
Yeah.
that we're going to perform. She made it. She got the gold tickets from all 3 celebrity judges after we performed her original song,
which brought me to Hollywood Week.
yeah. And she was so nervous because they did the whole thing. You know how the setup. They have one of the judges. They're like, they say they list out all the negatives, right? And then the next judge is like, well, I'll have to think about it after what he said, and I don't know. And then it goes to Katie, and Katie basically said, well, you're quirky and you're kind of weird, and I really like that about you, and it's a yes from me. So that was a yes from her.
Yeah.
So she's nervous during this whole thing. It goes back to Lionel, and Lionel's like, well, I know he's really intense, by the way.
Yeah.
Everything he says has to mean something.
Yeah.
Right? Absolutely. So he said, I know what I have to do now, and it was very intense. He's like, you're an artist. That's what you are. And so it went past him. Goes back to Luke, and I think sometime in between there, she says, I think I'm gonna throw up.
Or I was like, I'm genuinely warning you. Like,
Yeah.
if I don't get an answer soon, I'm probably going to like blow whatever's in my stomach, because there isn't much onto the ground, which we really don't want. But ultimately, they sent me through. I got to hang out with a lot of really cool people. I don't know if you're familiar with the show.
I am. Mhm.
Katie Turner.
Nice.
I sat with her at lunch.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's like so cool. Zach, the socks dude.
Yeah.
I sat with him at lunch. Mara, I sat with her at lunch.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah.
I got to be friends with so many cool people, and I made it to the top 70 of like 300,000 people.
Wow, that's
applied.
incredible.
So yeah, it was ultimately definitely like a pinnacle in my music career, and hopefully it'll take me places, and I'll be able to do even more stuff from now, like from what I learned from the American Idol experience.
What did you learn in particular? Like, what really stuck out with you that you feel that you were able to gain from that experience that maybe someone who hasn't been able to get through the American Idol and their experience, and they're kind of going through the grind here in Pittsburgh, what did you learn seeing the music industry from such a different perspective?
Well, I definitely learned to stay sort of more true to my character, and not be ingenuine, like when it comes to thinking I'm a dork. Oh, I can't be like blah blah blah. But that's what people like about you. Like they want to relate to you.
They want something legitimate.
Yeah, so don't put on a fake, like
Right.
a mask.
Yeah,
being who
right.
you
Yeah,
are.
and it's not that I was trying to do that, but
Sure.
I was definitely insecure with the fact that I'm not cool. I'm not like.
Well, I think a lot of the people do go in there and they try to pretend to be someone they're not,
Yeah.
and either they don't make it or they get pushed through because they're ridiculous and they
Right.
want to make fun of them.
And then
Yeah.
how do you? I mean, let's say you make it through and you have this whole quirky character that you've created for yourself.
Yeah.
Do
If
you
it's
have
not
to
you.
maintain that indefinitely? I mean, that's something that I would worry. Like if you create this whole facade, then you have to live with
Yeah.
that facade.
Like for me, it's not a
for as
yeah.
long as
facade.
your career lasts.
Like it's just me. I'm a dork,
Right,
and I'm
right.
like 100% okay with that, because I feel like that's like I wouldn't trade my personality for the I have trouble talking sometimes, but it is what it is. I am who I am, and
Well,
that's okay.
I think you're doing fine,
Thank
at
you.
least on River Talk.
Thank you.
But I will say it's amazing how some people, their skills, you would think it would be an easy transition. I have a friend, I'm not going to name him because I don't want to embarrass him, but he's an incredible, incredible actor, one of the best actors I've ever met. I wanted him to come on my show, and I had to drag him kicking and screaming. He was terrified.
Sure.
Yeah.
Terrified to come on my radio program, and this is before we did anything with video, so it was audio only. He's calling in on the phone. I had to, like I said, drag him in through the phone lines and get him to call into the show, and he was terrified the entire time. And he
Wow.
gets on stage on these huge performances before hundreds and hundreds of people, and he commands the stage. He's completely in charge of the stage.
Yeah.
Even when he's not in a major role, he still takes charge of that stage because he's just such a good actor.
Yeah. That's completely understandable. Especially like, I understand that because I'm a different person than I am like on the day today whenever I'm singing a song. Like not the talking in between, but when I'm singing, when I'm performing, I'm in that moment.
There's a different level of confidence. There's a
Yeah.
different level of being comfortable. I
Yeah,
think.
because at the end of the day, like music has always been my outlet. Like if like my first heartbreak, I wrote about it, or like anytime I feel something new, when I learn something new, I feel like I have to write this down. I have to put this to music. So for me, it's always really been about that, you know?
Oh, yeah. Now, because of being on American Idol, obviously you guys have gotten so much press from the papers and things like that, and
Yeah.
that's really helped you on your local career, right? It's made you
Absolutely.
much of a big star. So, yeah, people know who you are. I mean, we've got like 1 million people watching right now. It's great. So, you're able to use that, and what have you done with that celebrity, with that stardom that you've gotten through the papers? 'Cause I know you do a lot for the community as well, right?
Yeah,
Fundraisers.
Yeah, fundraisers, singing for charity,
Relay for Life.
Relay for Life, yeah,
Liver
Jamie's
Walk.
Dream Team, the River Walk, the River Walk.
The
we
Relay
just did
for Life, is that the one in
Marshtown.
Norwin that you've done?
Yes, we did the relay
Okay.
in Norwin, and we also did one in what was that other town? We've done 2 this past year. The relay. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember the town. We're going to be doing it again this
The one in
year.
Yeah,
Norwin
so-
is really special to me. So I
Yeah,
was
we've done that.
I started going to that Norwin Relay for Life, and I really was a big fan. And I had actually took what I learned there. Big shout out to Denise Martin, who was one of the founders of the Relay for Life at Norwin. I took that information and we started a Relay for Life at Cal U, which is still going on to this
Awesome.
day. So, and at one point, I actually organized the entertainment and the music that came through the Relay for Life. So
Oh,
it's
that's
really cool to
Okay.
Yeah.
come back to that and see
Yeah.
that whole
Yeah, we-
thing
we-
circle
We
back.
do the Survivors Dinner.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
the Survivors Dinner. My sister, and I'm sure a lot of people have know survivors that are close
Oh,
to them,
yeah.
you know, or someone who's suffered with it and unfortunately passed. So it's a good thing for us to show our support for, and we really enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And you guys are playing a lot in Westmoreland County. I know you play all over,
Yes.
but in Westmoreland County, I really feel like, and this has blown my mind because when I lived in Westmoreland County out in the Irwin area, the music night of the week was karaoke night Thursdays at the Colonial Grill.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure that's still a thing. And
Yeah.
and Sundays at
Yeah.
Mr. Mike's.
Oh yeah,
shout
it started
out to Al.
expanding everywhere. Yeah.
I'd say I would like there to be more.
Yeah. She
'Cause
used to
I
spend
very
a lot of-
rarely
yeah,
sing in my hometown.
right.
Like I've been at the Fire Pit. I'm sure you're familiar.
Yeah.
I've been at the Fire Pit.
Quinn Brewing.
Quinn, yes.
I've never been there. I
It's
want to
right
go
by
there
my
so
house.
bad. Where is that at exactly?
It's at the little business park just behind. There's
That's what I thought. By the
Yeah.
postal thing.
Right,
yeah,
by the post office,
I've been
behind
wanting to
there.
go there so bad. Every time I go there, they're closed. I want to go to that one.
Yeah.
See, when I went to Norwin, when I lived there, they didn't have any of that stuff.
Right,
they had
right.
no breweries. There was they've got the Apis Meadery, which plays the River's Edge radio network
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
as their
Awesome.
house music. They've got that there. They've got the Fury Brewing that has opened
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
None of that existed. There was just
They got a
Rivertown.
new one in downtown coming out.
I
Crescent.
heard,
It's
yeah.
called Crescent. It looks pretty neat. The way that they
Yeah.
remodeled the inside of that shop looks pretty nice. So.
Yeah,
I'm
so
so
it's really
interested.
cool. But I definitely want more live music, like in Irwin. I generally actually like perform in the Greensburg area, a lot.
But even
Like,
Greensburg didn't have the local original music scene that it has now. Back
yeah.
then, when I lived there, if you went to Greensburg for music, you were lucky to see a cover band, if anything.
Right.
Yeah.
There wasn't this upsurge of local music. Why do you think that is really growing in that area? Does it have to do with the Keynote Cafe?
I think
and
a
opening
lot
up?
of it has to do with the keynote.
Yes.
The keynote is like an incubator for young talent.
Yeah.
I started performing there when I was 14, before I had started writing music. And Jill, the
Yeah.
owner,
Big shout out to Jill Urbani Sorrells.
she
We
is
love
like
you.
the big reason why we're able to do anything we do, because she's fundraised for us. She's just been such a good support system for not only me but so many young local artists. She pushes them to get
to get
live
the
music
courage
behind
and get
them.
the courage to
and to write.
get in front of people. Yeah.
Yeah, so she's definitely been
It's a
a big,
fantastic place.
absolutely.
Yeah, I still need to get there. I haven't been there. It's so hard. So as you guys know, and kudos to you, because you traveled through the Squirrel Hill tunnels, and you're talking about the journey through
We do that a
American.
lot.
Do you? Yeah, and you're telling me about your journey through American Idol, and I'm thinking, if I had to equate it to a traffic situation, it would be going through the Squirrel Hill tunnels. You guys are basically warriors, is what I'm saying. You traveled through the American Idol process, you've traveled the country, and you made it through the Squirrel Hill tunnels voluntarily, and you do it often.
Well, you know,
I-
after you go to LA, the traffic
LA.
there.
The 405. Oh my god.
Makes the Squirrel
Like
Hill
if-
tunnels seem like a breeze.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like it might be like annoying, but like when the lanes go from like 2 to like 20.
And you have motorcycles splitting traffic because it's perfectly legal there for them to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nerve wracking.
no
That
one
drives
uses
me
their turn
nuts.
signals.
Yeah, no one
Oh,
uses
really?
turn signals at all.
Like they don't.
Well, the lane splitting thing should be illegal. Those people should be thrown in jail and
Right.
imprisoned, and their vehicles should be impounded.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
It's. I'm sorry. I feel very strongly about that. You're looking to cause an accident by doing that. I
Oh
think
yeah, I mean that's like
you should be stricken of your keys. You should lose your driving privileges.
right. It's suicidal.
You should
I mean,
only be forced to
that's
use.
what it
yeah,
is.
Yeah.
I don't really understand why, but my dad was the one driving, so.
Yeah, it's horrible. So basically, you guys, when I lived in Irwin, I never came to the city because of the tunnels. Now that I live in the city, I rarely make it back, which I feel bad because I'd love to, but it's because of those damn tunnels. And then working overnight, when I get out of work, it's like the work day.
Yeah.
So
Well, you
it's
can skip the tunnels, just head up to 22 and jump off Monroeville and do it that way instead. It'll take longer, but
yeah, a little bit less of a hassle
Yeah.
there for sure.
yeah.
So do you live in Irwin? Is that where you
Yeah,
actually?
North Huntington, Irwin, same zip codes.
Yeah, it's all 15642.
Yeah.
However, those factions, North Huntington and Irwin, they're always at war as to who is who. So much so, the Turnpike exit, Irwin, there was a big fight to try to change it to be called North Huntington because technically it's North Huntington. There's so much feuding.
We've never been a part of that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
didn't
that
even
is
know there was a feud.
multi-generational. Oh, yeah. It's like North Irwin, where I lived, was kind of, everybody views that as like their little stepkid or whatever, like the little brother, and Irwin and North Huntington are always fighting one another, but they're always cool with North Irwin. North Irwin's just kind of like the little engine that could, and they're like, oh, we like you. You'll get along.
I like North Irwin.
Yeah, North
I had a
Irwin's
lot of softball practices there.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
grew up in that town. It's a really neat town.
it is.
Yeah,
It is.
well, isn't that where downtown? Here's downtown Irwin, and then North Irwin's like
North Irwin's on the hill.
Yeah, up
Yeah,
behind
yeah,
that
yeah,
little
yeah.
bridge and make the left.
that's North Irwin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So what do you think you need to do to get more music in Irwin?
Oh, well, I think we're on our way to it. I'd say the majority of people in high school, because I think that's where it all starts. That do the live music and stuff are from Hempfield. And I know that because a lot of the kids at the Keynote Cafe were from Hempfield, and then there was me, like the single lonely Norwin
Irwin.
kid.
Yeah.
But I'd say for sure, like that was sort of my purpose for having an open mic at the Keynote Cafe, was to sort of bring some more kids from North Huntington, like Norwin High School, sort of give them the courage
And
to
mix
get up
them
on
in.
stage.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
get them mixed
Yeah,
in.
and a support system is really important as well, like parents.
And unity,
Yeah.
like a unification of a lot of the different genres of music, being able to play festivals together. You know, there's always this. Even when I was a kid and I was coming up and I was playing music, there was like music snobbery that would happen. You know what I mean? Like, and I was playing a lot of metal and speed metal and stuff when I was a kid. That's right. And even between like different, we'll call them factions of metal. If you had like a dark metal band come in and you were playing thrash metal, they were like, "Who are you?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be like that because we're all struggling in the same community. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? And that's the thing. And I do see it more often. I see these guys, this younger group, helping each other out, which is refreshing.
Is really nice. Like
you
as
know?
people mature, as people like.
You still
we
have
know-
politics, but
we
you
know that we need each other at the
Yeah.
end of the day. It's
Right.
not I'm gonna go it alone and screw all you guys because I have to do what I do and you're just competition. It's not about that at all, which I really appreciate about Norwin High School. Like we're here for the people that play the guitar and sing and they just want to get out there and they want to write their own original music. You know, like no one's like really put down.
Yeah, and that's another tough thing too. If I can interject just for a second, is the original music scene suffers because people have a hard time, I think, getting involved in something new. I mean, you have to always mix your set with covers just to hold people's attention. If they listen to an original
at venues
song,
that we're performing.
right,
Yeah.
specifically.
yeah.
Especially out in the general public. When you're coming to a place like Mr. Small's where people are coming for music
Yeah.
specifically,
Yeah.
you have more of a captive audience.
Right,
Exactly. Or Hambones.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Lawrenceville.
Exactly.
That's definitely a place we regularly play
right.
our originals there. You know, where people are going to actually appreciate,
Yeah.
like stuff that you create. Otherwise, like, and it's really no shade to anyone who's sitting in a
No.
brewery listening to music and they don't want to hear an original. Like, I understand that personally because, like, I'm paid to entertain them.
You can, but at least you can pepper them in, and that's cool.
Yeah,
We haven't had any issues with anybody ever saying we don't want any original music here.
Sure.
But they do want you to play covers because they want to.
There's a better response to that.
They have to keep butts in seats, and they have to keep people drinking. And
Yeah.
and if you're not keeping butts in seats and you're not keeping people drinking, then you entertaining there is kind of like.
Our
why are you
ultimate
there?
goal is to graduate from that and be able to like people know my music. You know.
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, that's definitely something that I want for myself is for people to listen to my music on a regular basis.
Where can they listen to it? Where can people get your music?
Spotify, Google Play, Amazon. So I guess Alexa could play Aubrey Burchell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Soon, right at riversedgepgh.com. We're
Exactly.
working on that.
There you
Right
go.
there.
So,
Pretty much anywhere.
Yeah.
If you search her name, you'll find her on pretty
It's
much
there.
all of the digital
Yeah.
outlets that stream or download,
Yeah.
whatever.
what's next for you guys now that you've gone through the American Idol, you've gotten the press, you're getting gigs, you're moving up? What's the next step?
Well,
We're putting a band together,
that.
full band. Most of the actually two of the recordings, one that's going to be released in February, March timeframe, are recorded with full bands with studio musicians. Her first song, Memory, was just she and I, really stripped down, just acoustic guitar.
My very first song
Yeah.
that I produced.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
I'm taking a year off of school for sure, just because my gig schedule is so crazy. I want to release an EP, a body of work, like something like that. I want to be able to, try out for everything I can, really like put myself out there while I'm young. I'm gonna get myself a part-time job for a while and,
Yeah, this
and
summer
just
we're
really
going to
hone
be
in.
working on in Atlantic City for a little bit. We're going to be
No,
doing,
sir.
Not Atlantic
Virginia
City. I'm sorry.
Beach.
Oh my God, Virginia Beach for the Live on Atlantic.
Yeah, this is
showcase that they have.
our second year there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's
nice.
really cool. It's like all like along like the street
Atlantic.
next to the Atlantic.
That's why I said that.
Yeah, the close.
Freudian slip.
close.
Atlantic. Yeah, Atlantic
They
Boulevard.
have performers all up and down the street
Yep.
for like 3 hours. Like what is it? Like 8 to 11.
Yeah, something
9
like
to
8
midnight?
to 11 generally. We would just set up on different street corners in front of different shops, and it's a really cool thing.
It's
and,
so cool.
Yeah, I mean they still have buskers and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but this is more sanctioned by the tourist agency, the
That's cool.
tourism
So
community.
guys, go to Virginia Beach if you're going on vacation.
When's your next show? We're going to end with that because everyone's asking.
Glenn,
On
next.
January 25th, I'll be at J&D Winery.
Yeah.
Where's that at?
Washington, PA.
Oh,
Yeah.
Washington. When are you back in Irwin? Everyone from Irwin is on the chat and asking.
We post our
Yoinks.
schedule on her Facebook page too,
Yes.
in case it. in case we
I will be
brain
doing
freeze.
concert in the parks this year.
Yeah.
July
There we
28th,
go.
I'll be opening for the Hillbilly Way. So that's gonna be a good time if you're from Irwin and you wanna come to like a show that's close to home. That's definitely one to get out to.
And we're always filling up the calendar. The calendar changes on a regular basis.
Yes.
My wife has an extremely difficult job maintaining that. She won't
Yeah.
let me because she knows I'll screw it up.
Yeah, same thing here.
We all have our strengths, right?
Yeah.
All right, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review The River's Edge on Apple Podcasts. Listen to your favorite shows like The Mike Sasson Show, Gike's Got Game, P.O. Vincent, and, of course, everyone's favorite River Talk. Just search The River's Edge on your favorite podcast app. Don't forget to review. We always want to get your positive reviews. Only good reviews. If you want a bad review, go bad review someone else's podcast. We've got one more song coming up from Aubrey and Russell here in the studio. I want to give a big thanks to Zach Fell behind the board, Brent Conley, our producer. I'm Brian Crawford. I'll be back Friday night right here with Jay Cooper, and I believe that Friday we'll actually have Mr. Sean Collier in studio with a big announcement in regards to the River's Edge Radio Network. You may know Sean Collier from the Pittsburgh Magazine. He's the editor of the Pittsburgh Magazine, so we've got that coming up on Friday. But before we roll off, we've got one more song right here from Aubrey and Russell. I'm Brian Crawford. This is Pittsburgh's voice for local music, streaming local music 24 hours a day. That's riversedgepgh.com.
Wish I could say that I hate you for all that you are. Although my heart is bruised and marred, I cover these scars, all these memories, they're all I have. You took my hand at the game, you probably thought I was insane. I was so scared I could have died. You held me while I cried. Oh, these memories, they're all I have. Kiss the skies goodbye that we sat under when the snow was falling down that December. Oh, the world was in the palm of our hands. Teach me how to walk again, show me how to breathe. Life was like summer when you loved me, surrounded by your warmth. The air was thick and sweet. Now I'm cold and lost in your memory. Wish I could say I don't miss you. Lord knows I don't want to. I never woke up alone in your arms. I was at home. Now I wake up and no one's there. You took my innocence away. You said you loved me every day. And when the moon came out that night, saw you smiling in its light. Now I wake up and you're not there. So teach me how to walk again, show me how to breathe. Life was like the summer when you loved me, surrounded by your warmth. The air was thick and sweet. Now I'm cold and lost in your memory. I wanna drive to your house. I wanna walk up those stairs, open the door to your room and see that smile. Wish I'd have savored all the moments, the last morning I had with you. Now I'm left sick and hopeless since you left me. Teach me how to walk again, show me how to breathe. Well, I'll teach myself to walk again, remember how to breathe. Well, summer is till summer, even when you're not me. I'll fill the air with love again. I'll make it thick and sweet. Can't be cold and lost in your memories. Kiss those stars goodbye that we sat under. Hope these words will help you remember how the world was in the palm of our hands.